I knew it wasn't working because I said something rude about one of the contestants, and someone who I knew vaguely, because I had it in my head what my role was going to be. And he was like, oh, what a horrible thing to say to you.
Yeah, and we had a debrief afterwards in the dressing room, and all 5 comedians were saying, you need to not be quite so mean.
Yeah.
This is a good one. I am Jesse David Fox, senior writer, vulture, and author of Comedy Book. What is the best show on YouTube? To answer this question, my guests today are Greg Davies and Alex Horne, 2 British comedians best known as the host and the co-host/creator of Taskmaster, respectively. Taskmaster is a comedy competition show that's been airing in England for over a decade, but has become an international sensation over the last 6 years when full episodes started getting put up on YouTube. Each season, or series as they say across the pond, the show brings together 5 comedians of different ages and experience levels to compete in a series of quirky, frustrating tasks designed by Horne and judged by Davies. It has been a launch pad for many British comedians over the last decade, but more recently, American comedians have wanted to join in on the fun. Jason Mantzoukas asked to be part of season, or series as they say across the pond, 19, and Kumail Nanjiani will be on next season, or series as they say across the pond. I'll be honest with you, Taskmaster is one of those weird things to conduct an interview about, because to some people, it will be completely new, where to others, it's something they know every single detail about. So my task, make everyone happy, and you can be the judge. So here are Alex Horne and Greg Davies.
I'm here with Alex Horne and Greg Davies. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having us, Jess.
I expect all answers to be said in unison.
Yes, it's the British way.
It's the British way. Okay, here we go.
What is the funniest or strangest thing that's happened to you this week?
Last night I met a man with the longest tongue in America. He's in Ripley's, believe it or not.
Now that's interesting because I also met the man with the big tongue, but I didn't know he was a record.
Well, I like the tongue. You didn't like the tongue.
Oh, it's one of the worst things I've ever seen.
I was very fond of the tongue.
I'm sort of prone to melodrama, but I would stand by this statement. It ruined my night. Seeing that tongue ruined my night.
And complete opposite to me. It made my night.
And I told him as well.
How did you meet him?
Well, he was taking photos of us all evening for maybe 4 or 5 hours until finally,
professionally,
he unleashed the tongue.
Yeah. But it was at 2 o'clock in the morning. He suddenly went, I was surprised. Look what I've got. And out it came.
All the way down.
It was horrible.
Were we really that long?
Oh.
Well, beneath the chin.
He would easily be able to pick up pencils with it.
That's how they judge it.
Yeah.
Ripley's, they're like,
That's
pencil test?
That's the Ripley standard.
So mine is tongue. What's yours?
And my massage, you know what mine is. I had a massage at my hotel in Philadelphia, all above board. Professional, but she wouldn't let me wear my underwear, and we don't do that in Britain. We keep our underwear on.
Please.
That's the first time I've taken my underwear off since I was 8, and so that was. She covered me with a sheet, but that's not the surprising thing. The surprising thing is what she said to me right at the end of the massage, and she came really close to my ear and said it. She said, "Thank you for being my canvas."
That's the right reaction, Jesse.
And just in case she hears this, I'm in no way suggesting it was a negative experience. I was uncomfortable with taking my underwear off, but I still don't know what to make of "Thank you for being my canvas."
I think it's quite beautiful. I imagine her life is quite beautiful, and that she sees what she does as an art.
Yeah, exactly that. And was it an artistic experience for you? Did you?
It was good. It was fine. It was a fine massage. Yeah, but anyone who's seen my body certainly wouldn't describe it as a canvas.
No, I've seen it
of any kind.
I saw it all last night.
Most artists would reject that canvas. You saw me.
Well, because of the angle you were sitting at, I couldn't see that you weren't wearing underwear because you were just wearing your underwear.
Yeah,
but your knees were up, so it looked like you were fully naked.
Can I say something? Thank you for looking at my canvas.
What were you expecting from this U.S. tour, and what has surprised you?
I think, well, personally, I don't want to speak for Greg. I don't go in with many expectations. I think I just had it in my diary. We're going to America. I was excited. I was really excited, but I wasn't expecting anything. I was just sort of looking forward to the trip. And so it didn't meet expectations. I mean, it's just been brilliant. But I don't know why, but that's funny thing about I never sort of look forwards. I just sort of, here we go.
Yeah, I think I'm probably the same. I'm very much a glasses half empty man in my approach to life. So I presume everything will be a disaster. Even though the shows had sold out fairly quickly, I'd still think, well, they may have sold out, but it'll go very badly. But the moment we stepped on stage in Chicago, it would
Yeah, that's how it's pronounced.
it would appear that we have underestimated the popularity of the show amongst people who found it on YouTube, because the reaction in Chicago was insane and not like the reaction we're greeted with in the UK.
Yeah. If we'd come in expecting that reaction, that would have been very strange.
Yeah. I would say if I didn't know, I would say that they were going to attack us.
Yeah. There was a wall of sound and people were standing up and it felt like they were brandishing weapons.
Yeah, it was just wonderful. And you know, if you've been in this business for a while, as Alex and I have now, it takes a lot to sort of surprise you. But we were both just wide-eyed on stage for a few beats while we took in that enthusiasm. So and we found that in every city we've been to.
Yeah. In 2018. Alex, you were part of a U.S. adaptation of the Taskmaster TV show for Comedy Central that you admitted didn't work both creatively and commercially. Have you had moments this tour where you felt vindicated, where you're like, they were wrong, I was right, this would work in America, this is how...
Not really. I don't really live my life like that. I would say it definitely didn't work commercially. I think it was actually fine.
Yeah.
It's just not as good as it could have been. I don't look back at it and think, oh, that's awful. There's lots of good bits in it. The people were great. I didn't mean to sound quite so defensive. But so I don't think vindicated, but I think there is a thing. I love that we've just put it on YouTube and people have found it naturally rather than us being sort of having to pander to a broadcaster and do what they told us. So
yeah, it's sort of wonderful, really, isn't it? That it's taken us years for everything to settle in and for us to feel fully comfortable with it. So now what we're offering up is a thing that's been fairly honed, and it's nice that people have discovered it on its own terms,
Yeah, I do also like, by the way, just. People used to say it's a very British show. That's why it didn't work over here. I guess that's a slight vindication. We've always said it's a human show, not a British show. And, I think that everyone's the same. We all laugh at people falling over, which is what the show mainly is.
Did you learn anything about the American entertainment industry from working on that show?
Positive or negative? I'm not sure I learned anything, but I saw things. For example, we recorded some of the episodes at 9:30 in the morning with an audience who had been shipped in who were told to whoop. And they didn't know what was going on. And there was too much whooping. So I thought, that was strange and felt slightly less organic than the British way. But that might not be the same on every channel. I'm sure it's not. And it was some of the things were strange.
Yeah.
But the thing that definitely isn't the reason that perhaps didn't take off is that it was an American audience and they were American contestants. It's as Alex has already said, it's a universal format of just putting people in a situation.
Yeah. Does part of you want to take another stab at an American version of Taskmaster, or do you feel like now ultimately the YouTube version is the American version of Taskmaster?
It's interesting now. We would love to have 5 American contestants and say, okay, this is a Taskmaster America. Yeah, I think we would love that. Whether or not we need to do it in terms of we are getting Americans in the show anyway. And actually the contrast with the Brits and the Americans is funny.
And it doesn't need redesigning. That's the point. It doesn't, if we put 5 Americans into our world, it would be no different than having 2 Americans and a Welshman.
Yeah.
It's so the wheel doesn't need reinventing.
Yeah.
And the Americans we have had have just slotted in and been.
Well, and also this week we've just done 5 shows with 5 Americans every night, and it's felt like Taskmaster. It hasn't felt like a different show at all.
Yeah. It's funny that you now think of John Oliver as an American.
He is, I think, officially a citizen of this country.
Yes. Well, he says dual citizen, but I don't know how often he goes back.
Yeah, it was great. It was great to repeatedly remind him of the country he rejected last night.
He still sounds British, but he's looking a little more American now.
Do you think?
He looks all confident.
And you know how we feel about that.
Yeah. No, thank you, John.
We do not like our confidence worn on our sleeve.
Yes, this is fairly. Oh yeah, this is fair. He did win. He did.
He did
He
win.
did win.
Oh, you were there?
Yeah.
Ah, I didn't realise you were there.
Yeah.
I tried to get a chant of UK going, but I stopped very quickly because I was nervous.
I think. Well, also it didn't take hold. But
No,
the
he
USA
hadn't
chant-
won
We
that
don't
one.
do
didn't
it.
win.
We don't do it.
No,
we don't.
UK.
We don't chant UK in the UK.
It sounds very
Wait,
aggressive.
It needs a third
Yeah,
syllable. It's just sort of like UK.
yeah. And United Kingdom's too long.
Yeah.
I mean,
gotta sort that out.
we will often sing ancient songs that talk about us being in charge of the seas. So there's a different kind of confidence over
That would have been different. You should have started one of those ancient songs you were saying.
Both feet. That one.
Rule Britannia, Britannia rules
Yeah.
the waves.
I want to back up a little bit and capture how the show developed creatively into the thing it is now. And some of this might be familiar territory, so I have a bit of a task for you,
Okay.
Alex. Here, you can read it. I even
Do
printed
you want me to read it out loud like in the
Yes.
show? I'll just open it. Tell the origin story of Taskmaster. You must tell it enthusiastically, as if this was the first time an interviewer ever asked you to tell it. This is good stuff, Jesse.
Thanks.
You will lose a point for any key detail missed, and you will gain a bonus point for any new information you reveal for the first time. You have 100 seconds. Now, I know the show well, so I'm not going to read that last line for a little bit. I don't have to.
You don't have to.
I don't have
You
to.
could take an hour.
Yeah. But I also think it's against the spirit of the show to leave too long before
Yeah.
reading the last line. Okay, so it's enthusiastic telling of the origin story of Taskmaster. God. Ready?
Mm-hmm.
Your time starts now. 2009, May the 19th. My wife gives birth to our first son. Horne, Alex, panics. So I didn't go to Edinburgh that year. Tim Key did. He won the Perrier Award. I was sat at home. I'm going to be more enthusiastic, jealous of my friend, colleague. And so I decided to set my own awards thing, which was called The Taskmaster. And every month for a year, I set 20 comedians a challenge. The first one was put some money in my bank account. Mark Watson put in 200 quid. No one else put more than the £5. That paid for the experience. At the end of that year, I went to Edinburgh with this 1-year-old child and my wife, and we told the story of what had happened. She was pregnant again at this point. And it was a fun experience, but that was meant to be it. But our manager, James, said, no, you should do it again. So we did it again next year with 10 people, which was more reasonable. And then we filmed that one as a sort of taster. And we started pitching it around, but with 5 comedians and with the Taskmaster Greg attached to it. How long have I got?
I think you have like another 30 seconds.
Okay. We persuaded
I
Frank.
just get up the enthusiasm.
We persuaded Frank Skinner to be in it by saying that Greg's going to do it. And we persuaded Greg to do it by saying Frank Skinner's going to do it slightly.
It wasn't a factor.
There's the colourful detail. Anyway, and the first series happened about 5 years after the first child was born.
Mm-hmm.
Now there are 3 boys. And there's been 21 seasons. And many, many channels did not commission it before Dave eventually did. Channel 4 refused it, but now we're with them.
Okay. Your time is up.
Okay.
How do you do?
I thought it was great.
Yeah?
What I would have liked to have seen is a little more faux surprise at the question up top.
Oh, really?
Still a weariness at the beginning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But I felt like it picked up.
It wasn't worried about the question. I was worried that you kind of got one over me. That was the frustration.
I like that you tied it into the birth of your children.
Hmm.
It gives the show gravitas.
Well, I did look
Like
at my...
sort of life and death.
Yeah, well, he's nearly 17 now, that kid. And that's a weird situation.
You don't know his name, right?
That kid.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you call him.
Well, he's one of them. Horne, Mr. Horne. Mr. and Mr. Horne is what I call them.
The
Well,
three,
is
the
it-
three misters.
The children is it had both the key details that I hoped for.
Ah.
The thing about the origin of of Taskmaster, which I feel like is part of the DNA of the show, is it is both the sort of like having kid renewal of a childlike innocence mixed with the sort of petty bitterness comedians have with each other.
Wow.
Petty
Perfect.
bitterness is... Yeah, you've got it. Well, we don't need to answer that.
No,
It's just a thing that I realized.
no, that's absolutely spot on.
Yeah.
Yeah. In many ways, it's the rabies shot of the petty bitterness of comedians. It's the other half of the show, which is this sort of community of positive, supportive human beings.
Yeah, if you had a series without any petty bitterness, it wouldn't be as funny. We don't want all 5 to be... There are some joyful comedians out there who are not tarnished by bitterness, but there's enough
Yeah.
to give it the edge.
Yeah, and I think there's the always jockeying of both wanting to win the show points wise, but also win the show
Yeah.
fan support funny
Yes.
is
Yeah.
it creates a frisson or whatever.
And I would say that was in evidence last night with Seth Meyers and John Oliver, in that they did both want to win. And they also wanted to be the funniest person in the room,
Yeah,
because that's what
100%.
comedians do. But they also they were so professional and fun. They gave each other space. They gave the members of the public space. It was really fun for us to see them at work in our office.
I always find it fascinating when people come in with when a contestant comes in with an agenda. I'm going to do this show in this way. I'm going to show this side of myself. I will be this character in the show, and it never works out for them.
Yeah.
But not in a bad way. Often in a glorious way, it doesn't work out for them.
Yeah.
Is it partly because it's almost like the people that are easiest to hypnotize supposedly are people trying the hardest not to be hypnotized?
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I like that.
So I imagine maybe the people trying hardest to hide, they are more, it's like more potential energy being, this is the show, this is the comedian.
Yeah. That's a good analysis. Well, I mean, I suppose James Acaster is an interesting one, because he did come in with a slight plan, which was not to acknowledge me and to do the James Acaster thing.
Yeah.
And that fell apart in a very funny way. So he was still extremely funny, but not in the way that he was intending. I think.
No, because some of his anger is curated. And I think that got put to one side for genuine anger.
Yeah.
In a glorious, wonderful way.
Yeah. Almost a more truthful humour.
Yeah, I
don't
think
know, without sounding too
I
pretentious.
think it revealed even to himself that he had a real anger, that he was using a faux anger that I think you see in his comedy afterwards.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean. It never pans out the way any of them or us think it will.
Yeah. What do you remember about the courtship of getting Greg on the show that now, when you look back on, is quite funny as people who now have known each other and worked?
I like courtship. It was the only person I was thinking of, and the production company, was Greg.
Allegedly.
This is completely true. And it's clear why. And it's not just the stature, it's the style of comedy and the quick wit. He can hold the show very easily. So I think we asked, and I don't think you took that long to say yes.
I remember my response to, we have the same manager. I remember my response, which was sort of, oh God. And the reason was I was really busy at the time.
Right.
And I have no desire to be a presenter and was focusing on other things. But the truth is I admired Alex, and so it was kind of irritating, because I would have turned it down in most other situations. But I didn't know Alex, but I was an admirer of his work, and I remember very clearly going, oh God, all right then, because I felt like I had no choice.
Yeah, they are funny when you get those calls, when you've got a really busy week, something comes in which is good, but it's going to be a fair amount of work as well.
Yeah, it's that thing of, I had a sitcom, and they told me I had a Christmas special, and similarly I went, fuck. Sorry, can I swear on this podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. And that's how I felt, because I knew I had to do it, because I knew he would have done something clever.
Were there conversations about who the Taskmaster was?
Yes, and I think that's interesting, in that we didn't get it right. Certainly not for the pilot. We didn't get it right.
We did a show 0 with those 5 people, and they did tasks, and we did it in the studio. We were never going to broadcast it, but it is something. The tape exists, and Greg had a stick with a T on, and he was very pantomime-y.
Yeah, and I was playing a pantomime villain, and I knew it wasn't working, because I said something rude about one of the contestants, and someone who I knew vaguely, because I had it in my head what my role was going to be. And he was like, oh, what a horrible thing to say to me.
Yeah, and we had a debrief afterwards in the dressing room, and all 5 comedians were saying, you need to not be quite so mean.
Yeah.
And they were right. And
How do you think of it now? Do you have the term kayfabe in England? It's like a wrestling concept, which is...
Please explain.
In wrestling, it's essentially the acting as if the fictional reality of wrestling is real, but more recently it has been used more broadly to be the sort of blurring of sort of the stages of public persona, especially with social media, right? There's like the on stage, this person's a character, this is a fictional universe, but also there is your real life that you might put some pictures on social media, which is all, and then there's the real person, and then you sort of blur it. And I do think this show, I was curious about how you see the evolution of the Alex and Greg characters and how it relates to your own relationship, and like, is the blurring, where do you see the lines of, we still need to act certain ways while on camera, can't fully be this.
What I would say is, the thing I love about stand-up comedy is that you can offer up whatever part of yourself you want to offer up, you know, and there's a lot of talk in stand-up circles about this being an honest show and people being honest and sort of, you know, confessional and giving of yourself. And I mean, I can't speak for other comics, but I never give of myself. I never give of anything of myself that I don't want to. So I think that as a stand-up, you're being very selective about what you offer up. And I think that's, well, I can't speak for you, but in Taskmaster, that's exactly what I zone in on. So I take a real aspect of my personality, which is an obnoxious, sort of bombastic attention seeker, and I just become him.
Yeah.
But it's not dishonest. It is me. It is an aspect of me. But it's very easy, I think, to mute the other more savoury sides.
I think it's the same answer. I think as soon as we put the suits on, we are different to the people we are here. That's our little costume.
It's interesting. Your children don't like watching Taskmaster, and I don't know whether it's true or whether you even want me to say it, but
You can say
your
it
wife,
is true.
your wife said they don't like watching it because it's not him.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, she said that to me. But because he is being, you know, subservient to a
Right.
to a bit of a bully.
I think they also just find it weird, and I don't really want them to spend their leisure time watching their dad.
No, I don't think they're traumatized by seeing me.
Well, there
bully
are
you.
traumatic things. The character of Alex, I wonder. I think about watching the show. There are moments where you have a job as producing the show, but when you're on camera, you're doing it. And there's moments where you are legitimately getting Chinese water tortured. Or I think about the moment where Rod ties you up and you're in a chair.
Yeah, I know.
And then you have to respond in character, but you're also like, I'm in charge of this.
Well, and also you're thinking that's really good telly.
Yeah.
Because he found a way around the task. We can never remember all the details of every task, but I know he absolutely nailed that one by tying me up. And as you say, he's tying up the assistant to the Taskmaster, but also the producer of the show, which is quite funny. And people seem to, the fans, which is a grand word, they know how the show works. So there's this funny dynamic that Greg's in charge, but I'm also in charge, and that dynamic is funny. So yeah.
But that's an example of Rod Gilbert accessing, you know, often part of his comedy shtick is to mess with formats and to make sure that his agenda cuts through. And that's how he approached Taskmaster. And it's interestingly how he told me he was going to approach Taskmaster. He said, I'm not going along with this. I'm going to
and he succeeded
mess
at
with
that
the system, and he did a good job.
Yeah, he was a very funny. We've had many people. His name comes up a lot when we talk to people about who they like best.
Yeah.
Just because he stood out and he was his own.
Subvert is the word I've been clumsily looking for.
There it is.
Thank you.
Did it. The romantic element between your characters, is that something that at some point you determined to deliberately, once you realized there's an element of the show that people were responding to?
No, I don't remember. It sort of crept. I know romantic is a funny word. I guess it's just we have a relationship.
Yeah.
But I think we've responded to fan fiction. We've never sat down and said, let's respond to the suggestions that are out there.
I guess you, as comedians, you know what's funny.
Yeah.
You naturally do it. And there's something, there's something funny about playing with our relationship, I think. But we've never discussed it.
Yeah.
No.
You just know.
Maybe we should.
This is the time.
No, I'm good with it. When we kissed, I was as surprised as everybody watching.
Was it in the script? Was it like, oh dear. Yeah, there's a very loose framework, obviously, because you've got to go in and out of the breaks and then introduce the next bit. And people say, do I know what's coming from Greg? And I don't, and vice versa. So, yeah. Well, I've wiped that from my brain. Well, anyway.
So much of the show is the casting. And I was curious what the conversations are like, how deliberate it is. Are you literally like, okay, well, we need one chaotic person, we should have one person that's more straightforward. Oh, we have this person already. Because I imagine not only is it a sort of creative decision, the in my head, it's like a huge list of people, and they're like, this is their schedule, this is their window of time. Actually, their window of time would fit for this series. What is literally like the conversation look like?
It's not as grand as a big map of faces. It's that we build it one by one. So there'll be someone we know we need. Well, I don't think the show needs it, but a household name helps. Even though here people often haven't heard of any of the contestants, and it still works. But anyway, people like us to have someone well known, and that person, as you say, might be low energy. So we think, okay, the next person probably should be high energy. So we just do one at a time, rather than trying to get all 5 at the same time. Because it's, are you free? Okay, this person's doing it. Let's try the next person, and it's just step by step. And Greg and I and the production company and the channel all have an equal say. So if there's someone thinks, no, they're not right, unfortunately for them, they won't make it. We listen to each other as well. If I'm passionate about someone, Greg will say, okay, let's go for it.
The lineups get presented to me after initial discussions, and it's very rarely that I've said, no, I don't want that person. I just, because they become such a bizarre entity, each group of people become their own identity. Yeah, it's very rare that I think, well, that won't work. I just think, well, I know that they're going to, they're going to find their way.
I guess I'd stress it's not formulaic. So we're not thinking, okay, we need a man in his 60s, then a woman in their 20s. It's not like that. It's just, this person would be great. So, for example,
we are. There is an element of making sure there's a range of
balance,
backgrounds and ages.
There's got to be a balance to be a better, not to tick boxes, just to be a better show.
Yeah, but like for example, Series 7, I think it's a sort of atypical version of the show, which is James A. Caster, Phil Wang, Carrie Goldman, Rod Gilbert, and Jessica Knappett, where they had 4 energies of a sort of more chaotic energy. Usually there's maybe 1 and 1.5. And we don't need to get too specific, like, okay, well, Noel's of this, but like it does feel like that was an atypical series, and it's a lot of people's favorite, but it is different. It's very. Was that something at the time you didn't know what they were going to be like? They just sort of were funny.
Where are you putting Phil Wang's energy in that? Because he's pretty low.
He's low energy. But he is not dutiful. Like his approach to tasks, right? There's both comedic energies and their relationship to tasks.
And we can see his penis.
Yes, and you can see his penis, right? That made him sort of
and
more
testicles.
testicles, sorry. A more chaotic presence. That he might be a low energy person, more a chaotic person in a season.
I think we look at it afterwards rather than before. I'd say in that series, probably Rod and James, the slightly higher profile than the others, but we knew Jessica and Kerry well. They're both great. And Phil actually was our original task guinea pig back in the day. So, it may be atypical, but I don't think there's a real standout. For me, it's not much different to anyone else. It's just 5 people who are great.
And I feel guilty about saying this because I've said it in every interview we've ever done, but I'm going to say it. They always confound expectations. It doesn't matter how much you plan it. They never respond in the way. I mean, okay, Rod Gilbert did respond in exactly the way I thought he might, but most of them don't.
Kumail Nanjiani discussed how he ended up being cast in Series 7 on this show.
Series 21.
Sorry. I'll say just that. Series 21, which is his version, is he asked Tim Key at a party and Tim texted you, and the short answer was you said sure, but I imagine there's a variety of conversations that happened. But how do you then build a cast where a person like Kumail is on it?
Yeah, he's an interesting one because he's a well-known person here. I would say he's a well-known person to some people in Britain, but he's not a comedian on the circuit. He's not on British television. So I think we still had to have. I think 21, which has not been on air yet, would be a slight outlier in that you've got Kumail and then you've got Armando Iannucci, who is extraordinary for me to have him in the show. But then you've got these 3 other pretty big hitters. Joanna Page is on the biggest sitcom in our country. We've got Joel Dommett presents some of the biggest shows and is also a great comedian. And then Amy Gledhill won the Perrier Award recently and is in these big shows and is a great comedian. So, I don't think we thought, okay, we've got Kumail. What do we do now?
Yeah.
I think.
Do you have a call to be like, what do you have? Try to get a sense of what you don't know him necessarily, so you try to get a sense of what his energy will be.
I think I texted Ed Gamble because he's got his finger on the pulse more than me, and he said, "Yeah, he's funny." I don't think we look at energy. If I'm honest, it's a feel. It's all very instinctive.
Yeah, funny and nice.
Yeah,
and then we'll see what happens a lot of the time.
I think it's less deliberate than you might think.
That's what I'm trying to suss out. There's the thing that once Kumail got cast, it did feel like Jason plus that really opened the door where it's like, I can name, if you gave me an afternoon, I can name maybe 200, 300 American comedians that could be on the show.
Please do. That would help.
Well, not now. I can't do it now, but I have
100
That's going to
seconds.
take a lot of the time up.
Yeah. That's why I'm not going to do it now. But if you need me to, now, like, who knows their availability? But there just is a lot of American comedians that I think are fairly nice, who knows their availability. But I do think at this point, where how do you manage the expectations of it? How do you personally do about it? As you know, fewer and fewer comedians. Do you have a net of people being like? I think of it like. There's an American show, Top Chef, which is a food competition show, and they only cast by referral.
Right.
Is it more like that, or?
Well, the British ones, we are not running out, but obviously we've had a lot of comedians.
Yeah.
We've had over 100, so that number is dwindling. So, which in a way makes it easier because we keep trying people who aren't available. Maybe they will be this time. But the American one's difficult.
Sorry, but the production company that makes it is also our agency and represents comedians and has lots of people going out and seeing comedians who are coming through. So, I, as a grumpy, out of touch old man, would never have heard of someone like Anya Magliano. But someone who came fully formed and was an interesting thinker and just as exciting as any other name we might have.
So that is referral, really. So word of mouth and somebody.
There's a whole network of people who contribute to the choices ultimately.
But I'd say we don't want it to be predictable, so we don't want to have an American necessarily every series or even every other series.
Then that would be the rhythm of it.
That's the thing. Yeah, we wouldn't. But if there are people who are great and who are up for it, we're open. But we could do with recommendations.
Yeah, I'll let you know later.
Yeah, please do.
As you mentioned, one of the most amazing things about the show is sort of a consistent commitment to having age ranges. It really is like nothing on TV I've seen. And I think last season was the most striking because there's someone in the 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and 60s. I know remembering specific seasons is hard, but do you remember any moment where you specifically felt the benefit of having such a wide age range?
Probably
Absolutely.
From the beginning.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's one of the things I love about the show. And I suspect the genesis of it is that you, as a family, played games. Where it's a very old-fashioned idea.
When Granddad says something, it's really funny.
Yeah, the different generations get together and all do the same thing. So it's quite old. Well, you tell me, but it's quite old-fashioned in its genesis.
It's accidental, but and we had Lenny Rush in the New Year special, who was literally a child when he did it, and again, really funny when he's up against whoever he was up against. But the range is great, and
I love the weariness of older people who've been in the business for a long time. I love that energy, but which never stays. They always get engaged.
Yeah, but I'd also say that it's sometimes really good to have two people the same age. So when we had David Baddiel and Joe Brand together, we don't want the older person to be an outlier necessarily. But when they were friends and just stopped and had a cup of tea during it, it's very funny. So, yeah.
I found that season quite moving. Something about their pace of movement, and when they succeed, there was something really
dignity, wasn't there?
Yeah. There's something really like because especially that group of young people were very gung ho about like trying hard. So there was, I think, a really nice contrast of like, this is what are you in a rush for?
Yeah, I mean, I really don't want to analyze things too much, but that series had 3 women and 2 men. And I think that's really good because it doesn't happen very often. And there's still 4 men because we're in it as well.
Yeah.
But I like it when there's more women than men. But there's a bit of a numbers game going on because there are still more male comedians in Britain than female, etc.
Yes. Has the show changed as you get closer to the older age of the older age comedians than compared to the younger comedians?
Well, I mean, it's a regular feature of the show that I berate comedians for being old and suggest that they're ready for the care home, and they're more often than not the same age as me.
Yeah.
But the world allows me to take the higher ground.
Yeah, I guess you don't notice yourself aging too much until you look at the
Oh, God, but we do though, right?
Yeah. But in terms of our personalities, and me, I'm still the little boy with a clipboard, I think.
Yeah.
Despite being...
I think in many ways to the viewers, you freeze. You're still the people from whenever, the sort of ageless...
Yeah.
middle age.
And the world is remains the same. The goals of the world remain the same. The Taskmaster Kingdom hasn't evolved.
Yes.
It's sort of,
Yeah.
Taskmaster has a reputation as a comfort watch for a lot of people, and I think a certain progressive politics gets projected upon that show, and especially in terms of accepting people of different identities. I won't name names unless you would want me to, but there are certain famous transphobic British comedians. Would you have any of those people on?
Oh, wow. That's quite a big question. And we do have maybe a reputation for avoiding big questions. We just do it. As in, we just do the show. We take each person on as a person on their merit. I would say our policy is to not have any people we think aren't nice. But everyone's said things in the past.
Yeah.
You know, again, without naming names, we've had people on the show who have definitely said things which I don't agree with, and that doesn't mean they're banned from the show. So I think it's case by case.
That's fair.
I love how inclusive the show is just naturally. It isn't something we analyse a lot, and we're not drawing graphs. It just is naturally an open thing, and is naturally a gang show. Analyse it a lot, but I think we're both pleased that it's open to all.
Yeah, we don't want to make either viewers or contestants uncomfortable or let down, but we're not going to make bad choices. Hopefully,
I'm just gonna name some names, and you'll tell me if they'll be on the show or not.
okay, here we go.
Uh,
We might not be able to tell you.
sure,
We might have to wink.
sure.
sometimes.
I think. Well, we'll see. John Oliver from last.
I mean, we would so love him. He's a busy man. He showed last night how natural
He was on.
he would be.
Yeah.
I mean, you saw that he was on last night, and he would be incredible on us.
Very high on the list.
I think his schedule might get in the way.
Well, maybe take a sabbatical.
Yeah, or kidnap it.
Yeah. Susie Izzard.
Susie's interesting. I mean, one of my heroes growing up as a comedian. So, yeah.
Both Demetriou siblings on the same season.
Oh, on the same season.
I wonder if Susie Izzard would come on. Have we ever approached?
We have. I mean, at the time they were trying to be the mayor of London, I think, or at least focusing in that direction.
Or
timing, Dad.
or running 30 marathons.
Yeah. I think we have approached, but not for a while. But yeah, we quite often approach someone and remember 6 years later that we should try them again because people change their minds.
What was the longest gap between? Is there a person you asked early on that then came on much later?
Yeah, I mean, someone like Jack
D.
D. Yeah. With the Demetrious, so Jamie's actually been a big supporter of it from the beginning, and quite often we text, and he, again, schedule-wise is tricky, and Natasha is so funny. I mean, I think we wouldn't have them necessarily in the same season because it feels like it's a bit of a shame for either of them. It's like we don't have married couples. We could, and they did it in Australia. But I think each person should be there in their own right, and it's a bit unfair on the other three people.
Yeah. So I want to get a little bit more into the process of the making the show, both the sort of task and the crafting of the narrative of a season. Alex, you've talked generally about the process of writing tasks, be it in a hot tub or not, but essentially you sit down and you go, time to write the task, and you write the task. But I was curious what that looks like in practice and how your thought process works. I want to ask you about a specific task from last series. I will read the task description. I will not spoil it. I will give the audience watching an opportunity to go watch it. So the task read, discover the name of the person in the lab. You must take it in turns to ask one question, and the person may only say yes or no. The other team members must remain in this room until the questioner returns. Each person in your team must address the person in the lab by their correct name before the task is complete. Fastest wins. Your time starts now. Okay, again, watch it. We will not spoil what thing is. Okay, you're back. Welcome back, everybody. So, spoiler, the trick is there's twins. Walk me through how do you start with an idea of what would be a task like that?
Well, there's certain things. I do like it if every series or every other series, there's something quite big, like we did a heist or we turned the house into a hotel for a task. And that one, I'd always thought twins would be good at some point. And I don't know why it suddenly landed then. We thought, okay, I've got quite a long list of ideas. And we thought, let's do this one now. And then it's how to use them. You only have one shot at it, especially because it's a team task. So team tasks we only have one day with the contestants of the team. So we had to make that one bulletproof. But it's just going into your little headspace and thinking, scenarios, how it would play out.
So do you start with twins? What can you do
Yeah.
with twins?
Yeah, so you're thinking they're going to be switching in. You want to keep them. It's a bit like a magic trick, I suppose, that one specifically. I mean, I always think of the tasks as jokes, in that I'm sort of doing the setup and they're doing the punchline, so they're being funny. But that one was a pretty mechanical task, I suppose, rather than an open-ended one, which tends to be Greg's favourite. It's like a song about a stranger or whatever. But yeah, that one was literally practicalities of how best to get that moment from the comedians of discovering it. So you saw it in the task that they thought they solved it, and then they realised they hadn't. Then they've got to get to the twins bit, so we put the clues, like they said, Thompson on there.
Yeah.
It's
the high drama of the reveal that there were
yeah.
twins must have been really satisfying for you.
Really satisfying, but also it didn't go how we thought it would go. Yeah. I don't think we thought they would look behind the curtain. So yeah, you're hopefully foreseeing what's going to happen, but you also hopefully leaving enough wiggle room that other things might happen.
With the heist, watch it now, come back. Will you go to the production team, be like, this is all the parts of this heist task, or will that be a sort of conversation? It's like,
that's definitely a conversation. So I'd come up with the wording, and then they'd go away and go, how about this?
Yeah.
And I go, yeah, that sounds cool. In the old days, I was there much more. Now we rely on the team much more. Thank you, team.
I think of Noel Fielding as a sort of pivotal contestant in the history of the show, in that every show in this broadly defined genre has a person who has almost can control the matrix a little bit more, who's able to enter the show and be like, I can bend this show to my will. And I think showed other people how to do that. Whereas you give him a task and he goes like, cool, I'll make a short film, even though it's not that type of thing. And you see that periodically. I think there's some contestants that is their way of approaching it. On the most recent series, there's Reese Shearsmith, who did a challenge. You're like, I'm going to do this short film. You give them a task. What are the conversations like to be like, cool, you now work for me as we produce a short film together?
Yeah, so the times on the tasks are real. So you've got 5 minutes, your time starts now, the clock goes. But when it's something like create something and you've got half an hour, we do say, look, it's got to be done in the half an hour, but we can pause the clock if we need to go and get props. Because we want to also make good TV. We want to make something that's satisfying to watch. And when you've got someone like Reese Shearsmith, who's so creative and brilliant, you want to enable that. So we want him to trust us. So yeah, he suddenly becomes a director and producer.
But he does not see the edit of the task.
No. So he has to trust us with all the pieces, and we put it together for them.
When that first time that happened, were you surprised that or you're always hoping that
I think that's grown. And then we would also have to credit Andy Devonshire, the director, who's endlessly creative, and he sees each one as a mini short film. Each task he takes pride in making it look as good as possible. So
this is the nerdiest question I have, which is in series, I believe 4. Mel's response to the I can't remember what it was, but she drives to the baby.
It was get the cow through the smallest gap.
Yeah, and she wanted to drive to Gap Kids. I spent a long time trying to figure out where that Gap Kids in relationship to
that clock was working.
Okay,
yeah,
I was like, this drive seems.
So luckily the house is in London.
Yeah,
it's in Chiswick, and that was in Chiswick High Street. Yeah. I mean, the reason it has to be is because viewers will go out and look on Google Maps.
I did. I was like, I think this is a minute, but. All right, I'll take your word for it.
Yeah.
Oh, I think we're pretty strict about.
That's why I was wondering if there's when you feel like, oh, this is too.
If it's a time one like that, if it's making a film, occasionally you think, well, okay, there must be hair and makeup. How have they done that?
Yeah, exactly.
So we'll say that doesn't count as part of the time. There's slight bending of the rules, but not when the time matters, if that makes sense.
And the thing we're asked all the time is whether it is happening in real time and whether the judgments are real. And we without even discussing it, we take Alex's format pretty seriously.
Yeah. It could be a much slicker program if we said, okay, they'll have another 5 minutes. Because sometimes the tasks don't work because they all run out of time, and that's what we put on telly.
Especially as the show is grown, you can be like, oh, well, we should just make everything a little bit slicker, and we'll do full camera setups when you do, everything is full switch.
I mean, you could film the whole thing in a hangar. So I know Dude Perfect from my children. I don't know the people, but my children watch that a lot. These are the YouTubers. There's some overlap with our show, and they've got this whole aircraft hangar, which would, we film in this stupid house where there's planes going over all the time and it's raining. Life would be easier, but it would be less funny.
Yeah. One of the most impressive things about the show, that when I rewatch it, is your ability, Greg, to almost instantly figure out what these sort of... Do you have the idea of comedic game in England? Have you heard this? Basically, it's created by the UCB, but essentially is in improv comedy that the sort of comedic drive of a scene or a sketch is called the game, which is useful for a thing like this conversation about Taskmaster, because there's obviously the game of the show, but there is a comedic game a lot of these people develop on the show. And I think it is a credit to you, Greg, in that you're able to essentially turn it into almost like a sitcom, in that they're not just saying funny things. They are saying essentially you're getting character laughs like you would get on a TV show.
Right.
How do you do that?
Well,
and is it a thing that you think ahead of time, or is it just, you did even last night? It is unbelievable. Within 2 minutes, you're like, I know who this person is going to be. This is what we're watching.
With those 3 members of the public as well. Yeah. I think it's because he's really good, but you can tell.
Well, thank you. I hope my vocabulary doesn't let me down. What I would say is it's instinct, and it's my instinct as a comedian to find some sort of form, and I almost, they're sort of grab rails when you identify a characteristic in someone. It's a safety for me as the host. It's a safety grab rail. I go, oh, cool, I can rely on this person to be like this, and I can keep doing running jokes with them. But I don't always get it right, but I think you have to be adaptable as well. We do record for 2.5, sometimes 4 hours, and I think you have to be careful not to pigeonhole people, and I don't always get that right. So just as an example is, if I take someone like Sam Campbell, who, it would be very easy for me to say, well, Sam's this crazy guy who's always going to do something crazy, but Sam is endlessly inventive, and his jokes are actually ingeniously structured.
Yeah.
And so I don't always get it right. I hope I do, but you have to let go of those grab handles during the show sometimes and go, okay, stop saying Sam Campbell is the weird guy, and interact with him a bit more.
I mean, 10 episodes is a lot of episodes as well. Yeah. So you don't want to repeat the joke. The main thing you try to do with the show is not repeat yourself.
And I'm certainly guilty for repeating the joke for safety and for my longing for some sort of structure.
Yeah, and sometimes repetition makes it funnier and funnier.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
I think it's organic, and you just have to feel it. Yeah.
Is it also? I mean, you are filming all these tasks. I think that because you don't air the tasks in the order that they're done, which is the easiest way you can show an arc of a person's whatever, right? If you did it in the order, you're like, oh, they started like this, and then you see their slow decline. But because you're doing it, is there people on staff or anything that is close to like what a reality show has in terms of like story editors? Like, are there conversations like that?
No. I mean, we do. So what I'm writing in my clipboard during the task is what's happening. So I'm writing down Jason Mantzoukas is breaking my equipment, and then I then type that up and send it to the editor. So I will say, bear in mind, this is their first task, so let's make sure we remember that this is their first task. Yeah. So we will mention that at the time. But yeah, we don't really look at a story. There's a natural arc in terms of their relationships, but that's not planned by us. That's just what happens. I would say it
evolves. That's the tricky thing.
Yeah.
Those narratives evolve over 10 episodes.
Yeah. If I can give something away to your viewers, a little exclusive, people like that, don't they? In the next series, which we're filming the tasks at the moment, we haven't got to the studio, but we have deliberately highlighted what is the first task because they don't know the house and they behave differently. But we don't yet know whether that will be the first task of the series or the last, because it's interesting. They'll look back at themselves.
So it will be not aired the first task, but everyone will know.
The wording even says your first task is, which we've never done before. But I think it is an interesting thing because they are a different person at the beginning to.
Why did you think to do that?
Because
you haven't done
interesting.
It.
Yeah.
I mean, what was nice is that essentially like turns the show into like either like a Rorschach test of these people or like play therapy and like psychology. Like when you have kids, psychology. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So I think there's a little bit of like you're seeing these people not on purpose. You're sort of how they do it reveals it, opposed to like the sort of narrativizing and stuff, which is good for comedians because I think a lot of comedians inherently narrativize their entire existence.
I mean, I'd say 2 people. So at the beginning, Tim Key and Joe Wilkinson were hesitant to do the show because they've got quite strong personas. Tim's not often himself in things, and nor is Joe. So they had to trust us a bit that play therapy would be a good thing for them. And they're still slightly, not themselves because when the camera's on, you perform. But
it's very difficult for them to stay within the parameters of the comedy persona they've beautifully crafted. The format doesn't doesn't allow it.
But we did. There's a bit of unfinished business because the first series only had 6 episodes, and the next 2 only had 5.
Yeah.
So it's kind of half a series. So it would be quite interesting to get them back to complete the set, but we're not going back.
Yeah. Not do another whole series, but just do 4 more episodes.
Yeah, would be funny, wouldn't it?
It would be funny.
10 years later.
Greg, do you ever find yourself giving people points for narrative reasons? Where you're like, or even spirit reasons, where you're like, oh, this person almost needs this win.
I would say the answer is consciously no, but I think probably with the wisdom of hindsight, I probably have done that, just in a human way.
Yeah.
As an ex-teacher, I probably am tickling things up subconsciously, but never consciously.
And I'd say never narratively.
No.
You're never doing it for the story of the show, but if somebody looks like they need a boost,
I think
subconsciously you may have.
Probably my instinct, the part of me that's kind may have done that, but I've certainly never, and we've never discussed something backstage going, not once in 21's series have we said we should tickle up someone's
I'd also say that
points.
Quite often, Greg, I'm very aware of who's got what points. I think you go into an episode, Greg wouldn't know who's in what order in terms of the series.
Never.
And that's not why he's doing it. So I'm thinking, it'd be great if this person won. But
I mean, the idea that I'm in charge is preposterous because, all of the statistics and the organisation is all done by Alex.
But I'd say it's a little bit like sport, that if you knew who was going to win in the football, if you were writing it, it wouldn't be as interesting as what actually happens. So, I mean, again, that's a weird comparison. It's not as grand.
And there is a temptation. There have been times where after the show's finished, we've gone, it would have been nice if this...
from behind.
For example, the 4 champion of champions so far have all been white males. Mm-hmm. If we were writing the show, we wouldn't do that. Yeah. So I think that proves it's real, even though there have been, I think, the exact same number of male and female winners, maybe 1 more male. So it's a pretty good and which again is not deliberate. It's panned out that way. But that's what happens. So you can't do anything about it.
Yeah. I wanted this interview to work for both people new to the show, but also the fans that you have that are very passionate, let's say, because it's a rare opportunity to get you guys both to sort of talk about the nature of the thing. So I did open up the questions to some fans, which is a thing I don't do very often. But I was curious, how would you categorize, especially the current state of Taskmaster fandom post YouTube? What are they like and why? Do you have any sense of why they're so passionate about this show?
Well, it's for community reasons. I think they feel like they belong to the show, and we were joking.
The show belongs to them as well.
Yeah, but we were joking last night about the sort of cultish nature of the show, and I think there's something in that. But I think it's a benign cult of where everybody feels like they belong a little bit. Yeah, and I read that. I don't know if it's I told you that quote. That
lovely.
I really loved. I read a quote online yesterday. That's, I think it was on Blue Sky. Someone said it's no surprise that neurodivergent people are drawn to Taskmaster, and then they explained it in the following way. They said it's because a man tells you to do a thing, and then you do it, and then a kind man with a whistle tells you you don't have to do it again. And I sort of love that structure would appeal to some people, but the whole thing is inclusive, which is mad when I think about my role in it, which is to be fairly obnoxious.
On paper, it doesn't seem like
a lot of the time.
Yeah,
but we always come away from every series thinking, oh, look at this weird little family we've created, who will all stay together. And I think that lots of the fans feel part of that family, and I think that's a joyous thing.
I would also say, I've been off social media for a while. I have someone who does it for me, which sounds like a luxury, but actually it's a sanity thing. And I've never looked at Reddit. Some of the team do. And if there's something relevant, they will tell me. But it would not be good for our health to see the depth that people dive into it.
No, and I very rarely look. I just happened to because I was in a car in America.
So we know the fans from the events we're doing at the moment, and they're so lovely and passionate. And also, they have been so good on stage, which is quite an interesting thing. They know.
I've
the
been
show.
I've been blown away that not one of the people we've had on stage has overplayed their part or underplayed it.
They get it.
They have sat within the world just like any contestant would.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely the world aspect of the world building of the show. Again, even though it's a fairly limited space, there's something, especially I think, being available to people online during COVID, of certain things that have proven, I think, to create these sort of relationships to people. And I think Taskmaster is an example.
I think that's a huge part of why Taskmaster has caught on in America, is that Alex did these, during COVID, did these tasks for families and communities to join in with. I think it's a huge part of why we're here.
Yeah, so people did that, and then they also found the show, and like you said, comfort watching. And you don't want to benefit from a pandemic, but yeah, it probably did help.
I'm not suggesting you.
No, I didn't put that.
You
It's just
sat down
it is
and
a thing, you know.
Oh, this global disease is my chance.
But yeah, if you look back, you probably would see, the world had an awful year. Taskmaster did all right.
Yeah.
Which is
All right, so now it's time for our first fan question, which is a video.
Greg and Alex. Sam Reich here, Taskmaster super fan, and some would say imitator. Here is my question for you. Some Taskmaster tasks have objective winners, whereas others require Greg to make a more subjective ruling. Is Taskmaster leaning one way or the other as a show as seasons go on? Do you each have preferences in terms of type of task? Or do you try to strike a balance of one versus the other per episode?
what an erudite question
Yeah.
from Sam. Thanks, Sam.
Thanks, Sam.
Well, I think we try to strike a balance. We try to make sure Greg is involved enough in every episode, because if it was all just, and this person won because they got 20, then Greg's role is diminished considerably.
Yeah.
He can't just say a funny thing. So it's important that you judge at least one task per show, normally two. It's a balance. It's probably half and half. We call them creatives and measurables. And we just make sure that there's a balance. There's simple, boring answers, Sam, but it's true.
I mean, one shouldn't be too lofty about this.
This is why you're here.
No, but I
In America, I mean, where you're allowed to be. So
no, but I don't think it. I don't think it is deliberate, conscious, or lofty. But my judgments are often unfair. But I would argue that's life. And as I've said many times, I've never deliberately judged something badly or based it on the character of the person who's on or the narrative that is emerging.
Yeah.
I really do judge it in the moment, sometimes correctly, sometimes incorrectly. But I would argue, and I think some fans would disagree, I would argue that inconsistency adds to the show.
Yeah.
And, some people would say, no, I want this to, I could name people who we've had on the show who I know would like this to be a strictly fair contest. But I would argue, obviously, because it's my role, that that human element adds to the show.
Yeah. I think in terms of preference to his question, which do we prefer, measurable, it depends on the task. I think, my favourites include both.
And so do mine, but I always gravitate towards the open-ended creative tasks are always the ones that delight me.
I was curious about the sort of balance of it as a show of games, and it is a comedy show. And Jason Mantzoukas did an interview with Vulture after he was on it. And this was his take of how he approached it, and I was curious how it is similar or different from what you've heard. So Jason said, the minute I'm on camera, I know that I'm participating in what is fundamentally a comedy show. I'm very much trying with the task, but like in a good improv show or scene, if something comes up organically that starts to look like a game, meaning comedic game, that I can play on top of what I'm doing. And if I see that game could trump the actual correct solution to the task, I'm going to play that game.
He's a great contestant.
Yeah.
And there's a sort of notorious math versus maths debate, where he stopped doing the task, even though the clock was still ticking, and he talks about, we've shown the clips here in America, we might release it at some point, where he said, I'm wasting my time doing this bit, which is a good demonstration of that. But not everyone gets that like Jason. Some people just do the task, and some people just try to be funny. And I think he really nailed it.
Yeah.
One of my favourite, and I don't really know why, but one of my favourite moments from Jason is that at one point he just sardonically looks down the barrel of the camera and goes, "Oh, this season's theme, science."
Yeah.
And
He knew the show so well
Yeah.
to be a part of it. Yeah.
but to to be horribly sarcastic about a format that you've asked to be part of is very Jason
And then I think
Mantzoukas,
then he
think.
dropped the jar, as you said it, I think. He then spilt the water.
Yeah, then he messed up. Yeah.
But some people, even though they're comedians, they are there to win. Do you ever hold it against it if someone feels like they want to win too much?
It's important to have someone
Yeah.
like that.
I do.
I mostly meant like personally, it felt like,
I do.
yeah.
But I love that there are some people who want to win.
But I think I think those people are necessary.
And they all have to
They're an important part of the dynamic. But when I'm having an argument with a grown adult about perhaps one of the more preposterous tasks, it perhaps does bring out it does bring out a weariness in me occasionally. But But that said, I think it's important.
If no one wanted to win, it would fall apart.
Yeah.
On some level, they've all got to want it. And they all want to win an episode. Everyone wants to have that moment on stage winning.
Yeah, of course.
Ed Gamble said in one of the episodes of the podcast that he wanted to win episodes, he wanted to win the show, but then he was disappointed because he didn't have enough things he said were the titles of episodes. And you're just like, these people.
Yeah,
These people being competitive people.
So that we do deliberately try to balance to make sure everyone names an episode. But that's the Andes who are in charge of that.
Yeah. So at the next few questions I asked for the Reddit that you don't you don't read. These are nice questions.
Can I honestly say I've never once looked at Reddit.
I don't really know.
I don't know what it
works.
is.
I asked for questions, which again, I've literally never done before. I was just sort of curious. And I've never seen anything like this, which is people would suggest questions and then people would be like, no, actually they said this on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, got it, cool. That was the goal. I don't want to. The goal is what you've not answered before, and they knew.
It shows we have to be careful about what we say because people do listen.
Yes,
but also we change our minds, and we'd say something, and then we'll say something different another time, especially about favorite tasks, because that changes all the time.
Yes,
so don't take our word as gospel.
The things that people, they all know the things you don't like answering, but they also all know you once said there's someone you didn't like or something,
which was a joke in a radio.
And it was a joke.
And so it's just like circles and circles.
Oh, I so wish I'd never made that joke because it just keeps coming back like waves on the shore.
Yeah.
There is no person that he said he didn't like. I was just being silly.
Yeah.
Let's put that on the record now. There is no disliked contestant.
All right. So here are the questions. Has Alex had any real life consequences from any of Greg's intros?
No, genuinely not. No, I mean, everyone knows it's so clearly a joke, which means you can get away with saying absolutely anything, which we've done here in America as well. So no.
I would be very worried about the person that took any of those seriously. It's not even a sophisticated joke.
Yeah.
So if you thought that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, when he says it, I do think, that is going to make life fiddly if that person sees it. But if they don't know it's a comedy show, then
I do try
there's no hope.
I do try and write things that will make his head sink.
Yeah. So I'm not pretending to be upset, but I think I'm safe.
Yeah. What tasks are there any tasks you would have contestants do if there weren't health and safety officers?
Well, more fire, more climbing on roofs, I think. It's occasionally frustrating that we can't make things explode. It's also health and safety, and also the world.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to waste more food, and it's great we don't. And we used to set fire to more plastic, which obviously is good that we don't. But it means I think food is funny.
Yeah,
and destroying a cake, and we wouldn't do that task anymore. And I think it's a shame comedically because we're a tiny show, so we're not wasting a lot of food. But it's good there's more the message.
Yeah.
Don't waste food. Don't burn plastic. But I think comedically we're missing out on a few things there.
But often the small scale of the victories is part of the show. I think that you can see people punching the air, having done something that isn't particularly spectacular. I think is the part of the nature of the show.
Are there interesting ways a contestant has solved a task that influenced you to adjust the rules for another task?
Probably not specifically, but so people So Richard Osman had to put the 3 exercise balls on the exercise mat. The balls were with him, the mat was on the
Yes,
top.
exactly.
So instead of taking the balls up, he brought the mat down. And I think at that point you think, oh, this is great. A part of this show is people solving things in an ingenious way. And before that moment, that wasn't necessarily part of the show.
Yeah.
So we are hopefully designing the tasks to be solved in a way we don't yet know, which is a strange... We try to leave them a bit more open-ended.
Do you also have to account for there are now people who have watched the show,
Yeah.
but also
so there's
people that
caveats.
haven't? Yeah.
We don't want to make the things too wordy. So occasionally, if it is the case of, by the way, you can't do this. I know you could, but you can't do that
Yeah.
because it would not be funny.
Yeah.
But we do also have to just put in loads of words, like you're saying here, as if this was the first. Sorry, this isn't a good example, but yeah.
If you didn't put it, then they wouldn't do exactly. They wouldn't be even in the ballpark of the rules. And then it's like there's a what's it called? I don't remember. There's another improv term, which is essentially it's like if it's too many crazy things on top of each other, it's like, it becomes
A hat on a hat.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. There's also last night we did a task. This is going to go out after tonight's show, so I can say it.
Yes.
They have to call the Taskmaster's cell phone, and someone in the audience called the Taskmaster's cell phone, which is a sort of clever way of solving it. And we have to acknowledge that and go, that's great, but no, on this occasion we need the task done
Yeah.
properly. And that happens on the show.
Oh, that's great. I would say, shut up.
What's the question? This person said, I'd love to know about the YouTube distribution deal, how it originated, whose idea was to get at the international audience in such a no-frills way, and what the conversations were like with the various rights holders around shifting to the same time release model.
Wow.
I'm just generally curious. I mean, like,
We're
YouTube
the
obviously...
wrong guys.
I know nothing of this.
I weirdly know nothing as well.
Yeah.
All I would say is that it was not a strategic decision. It was
We've
made the show. Let's make as many people watch it as possible. Let's allow
see how many people we can get to like it.
Yeah, but not to make
Not
more
to make
money. It's
money.
like, let's spread. We made this thing. Why would you not put it on the? And there's stuff like I did a show in Edinburgh. We were talking about recently, called Monsieur Butterfly, and it's an Edinburgh show. I filmed it, and I'm really proud of it. But we can't put it on YouTube because I used lots of other people's music, so you pay PRS. But if it's on YouTube, it would cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think that's just. I sort of regret that. Whereas with Taskmaster, it's all ours, so we can do what we want with it.
Have there been conversations that you could allude to where someone asked you to take it off for money to put it somewhere else? Like another streaming service?
Has a streaming service.
We're just not part of that conversation. So we just get on with it.
Do you have any feeling about it, or do you ultimately like the YouTube?
I love the YouTube model, that it's free and it's there.
Yeah.
There was...
Neither of us are motivated by monetizing everything.
No, the thing I do like is when it says 1 million people have seen this person do this thing. That's great.
It does add to the comedy of it that it's one thing to have a person do a thing on a TV show. It's another thing to be like 1 million people watch this person do this thing on a TV show. This is what we're all doing.
Countries around the world.
Yeah.
That's what blows us away when you go somewhere extraordinary and someone says, I watched Taskmaster, I was in Iceland or something like that.
And that's
mad.
just such a genuine, uncynical joy for us to go to other countries and to have people who have discovered our strange little world.
And that can only be through YouTube.
Yeah. I mean, the wild thing I was thinking about is like, it is ultimately the best TV show on YouTube. Like, YouTube is mostly created by people who are in the YouTube space. And then you have your show that is, it's
a bit of an outlier, and it's on YouTube.
Yeah. So, but to people whose YouTube is the way in which they consume whatever you would call, I guess, content or video content, there's like, wow, this show's, there's so much production, even compared to like Mr. Beast, right?
Yeah.
You're like, well, Mr. Beast does one thing, but like, doesn't seem like anyone...
It's catching up, though, I think. There are YouTubers out there who are putting more and more production values into it. And I think that it will end up being more like TV, and TV will be more like YouTube.
Yeah, but it is now to be like, oh, this is...
Yeah,
you hope it's the standard that they feel like, oh, I guess if YouTube is going to be TV, then you might as well like...
I guess the fact that we went through a traditional sort of production company to TV system, and that there has to be certain standards, and then it's gone to YouTube.
I guess
probably makes it stand out a bit.
Must be 99% of YouTube content isn't graded.
Yeah.
Whereas we have a whole team of people making sure it looks as beautiful as possible. So,
but not so beautiful that it feels like it can't be on YouTube, right? It's like...
Yeah, but people watch it on the YouTube on the telly or on their phones.
Yeah. I guess
so
it's all blurred.
A blur, yeah.
I think that and a lot of that's Andy Devonshire, our director, has an amazing knack of making something look lo-fi and sophisticated simultaneously.
Yeah.
You know, I remember seeing Andy respond once to a review of our show that had said it's cheap and it's made cheaply.
Which was meant to be a compliment, I think.
Well, yeah,
It was sort of saying,
it's so nice to see this
Yeah.
sort of guerrilla, sort of thrown together show. But it couldn't be further from the truth.
"Oh, Andy,
It looks like that by design, and
Yeah.
yeah.
How many cameras are you working with it? Like, is there just cameras everywhere? There are cameras in every trash
I'll tell you
can?
what there aren't is a lot of camera people.
Sure.
So when we did it in America, there were at least 3 people for every position. But no, it's so there's one camera person, the DOP, Sam, and then one other camera person, and then Andy, the director, has a camera around his neck. He's operating the other. There's GoPros everywhere. He loves these 360 cameras, but they're all operated by 3 people.
Yeah.
And sometimes Holly, who is our wrangler, it gets dragged in. Yeah, so small team, loads of cameras.
Yeah. Because otherwise, also, I imagine you get spoiled.
GoPros, right?
Yeah.
GoPros being dropped in vases.
Yeah.
And spoil tasks by if there's a camera person standing in a specific place.
Yeah, although we use that to our advantage sometimes and point the camera at something that isn't relevant because people are so savvy.
Yeah. I apologize if people really wanted me to ask this one. So, Greg, are you a child of divorce?
It's my favourite thing that any contestant has ever said to me.
It's so funny.
Yeah, I had nothing. I had nothing in response.
No, just laugh.
You just have to laugh at something like that.
For
For the record, though, I'm not.
yeah, good. Yeah, sorry for the record. Yeah, sorry. I didn't mean it as a joke.
Not that it matters.
No, of course. Periodically you'll see people talk about the death or the decline of the panel show in Britain, and it's a similar conversation that's happening here in the sort of death of late night television. Why do you think that is the case, and what do you think people can learn from the success of Taskmaster in the face of this?
Yeah, I hope people don't try to learn too much. There's a bit of a problem in commissioning where if there's something that works, they just want more of the same thing.
Yeah.
Whereas I think Taskmaster worked because it wasn't the same as anything else.
There was a glut. The truth is, in the UK, there was a glut of panel shows. It was a thank you. It was a format that worked well, and then everybody sort of did a big collective sigh that this format is dead. But if you take any of the big panel shows in the UK and watch them in isolation, they're great.
Yeah.
I think. And
What I lie to you is just guaranteed every single episode will make you laugh.
well, it's always funny. It's never boring. It's never repetitive because of the nature of that format. So I don't know. It's a thing in TV, as Alex has already said. It's sort of we need the next X. So if something puts its head above the parapet and gets a few more viewers, then the industry seems to respond by going, well, let's do a version of that crossed with that.
In the same way as the traitors, people are trying to imitate the traitors, and there's no need. That will kill the traitors if you have more shows like it.
Yeah.
I imagine that. I mean, it's been on for so long. I'm sure there's been waves of we need a Taskmaster. We need a Taskmaster.
I get told that fairly often. Yeah, and it's a compliment, but you sort of think just do something different because that's where.
Yeah, you want to honor the spirit of how Taskmaster was created, not the result of what Taskmaster is.
I would also say one of the secrets of Taskmaster is just we work really hard. We don't throw it together. And I think that sometimes, that yields results, if with a bit of luck and a bit of alchemy as well.
So now it's time for the final segment of the show. It's
Okay.
called a laughing round. It's like a lightning round, but it's laughing because this is a comedy podcast. But also, I don't know why I call it that. The questions are actually they can be long answers. So it's not lightning in any way. It's just at the end.
Okay.
But
I'm ready.
But now
gotta change the name.
But now I'm all revved up to
Yeah,
be
that's the point.
to
The
be
point is
lightning
to
fast.
it's towards the end. Let's rev you up a little.
Sprint finish. Okay, here we go.
They're general questions. You can both answer or one can answer. Do you have a favorite joke? Like what the term we have here is called a street joke. A joke that is not a comedian authored thing, but a thing
that you've just heard.
Yeah.
I've got one, but it's really dirty.
Yeah, I've
fine.
got one which is really clean.
Great.
But can I do?
Dirty is fine. Often they are.
Can I do mine first? Because otherwise it will pale.
Yes, I think that's fair.
I
The
think-
clean one should
Is
go.
yours about well?
Why did the man fall down the well?
Why?
He couldn't see that well.
That's
It's such a good joke.
It's lovely.
It's really lovely, and I think I will dirty it by saying mine. And I think a lot of your people will have heard this because it's done the rounds on American podcasts. But it made me laugh so hard. One What's the last thing you want to hear when you're sucking Willie Nelson's cock? You've heard it, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
What?
I'm not Willie Nelson. It's just a joke with a couple of layers that I enjoy. Why?
Please go through the layers.
Well, why was the fact that it was Willie Nelson? Why was that enough motivation for you to perform fellatio on him? And then, of course, there's the reveal that you've just been sucking an old man's cock, I guess. There's not that many layers. There's two layers.
But similar brevity to my joke. That's the other good thing about your joke.
Yeah, it's the fewest amount of words to communicate something awful.
What's beautiful about both is they create almost a visual. Like you feel like a space is created. They aren't just words. They do feel like when you imagine this well, you sort of
They're probably quite similar jokes.
Yeah.
They both solve a little puzzle.
They are.
That's why that's funny.
But sort of in keeping with our characters on and off screen. Mine is grotesque.
Just put that
But it's
bit
not
out.
mine,
That'll do.
But it really, really made me laugh.
It's right.
Because, for structural reasons.
What I find funny is because we're comedians, we often get asked to tell a joke if you're in a taxi or with someone's children. So you've got to have one in your head. I can only have one joke in my head.
Yeah.
That's all I've got.
And I've been answering that question with that joke for some months now. But it is also true.
Yeah.
It did delight me. If I think of another one that you can...
at any moment, feel free. At any time ever, feel free to record yourself telling a joke directly to camera, and I will put it up somewhere.
Yeah, I sort of don't want that Willie Nelson cock joke because other people have... So many other people
although you
told
did tell it well, and the layers was,
That the layers thing is what really adds to it.
and you did caveat it with other people have said this.
Yes. And I'd also like to say, I think that Willie Nelson is a perfectly attractive man of his generation. And I understand, very thoughtful and kind individual.
Yes. That you almost don't, you hope that joke does not harm Willie Nelson's ability.
I do. I hope that Willie Nelson would find that funny.
I guess he's heard it.
I have to.
It must have been a weird thing
You
when
gotta
Chris
ask.
heard it.
I'm writing that down. Ask Willie Nelson.
If he's heard the Willie Nelson joke.
Yeah.
It's it's a huge compliment to have that joke about you.
That he is that.
Yeah. It wouldn't work with my name in that joke.
I would also be curious because the nature of these street jokes that it's possible that joke, Willie Nelson was an update of a version of that joke from like the 1930s, and it was whoever.
Yeah.
Do either or both of you have a short story of an interaction with a legendary comedian, living or dead, you are willing to share?
I mean, all my interactions have been recorded.
I've got one, but I don't know how relevant it is over here because
Doesn't matter.
I don't think that did Only Fools and Horses catch on in America? I don't think it did. Well, it's a real institution in the UK. It was a sitcom that ran for, I guess, 20 years and ended in the 90s. And it was about some working class brothers. There's a very famous scene where Del Boy, the main character, is trying to impress some girls in a bar. And he goes to lean against the bar, and at the moment that he leans against the bar, the barman lifts the bar hatch, and so he just falls out of shot. And it's iconic in our country, that scene. Now, I went to a BBC meal that was fairly arbitrary, sort of fairly early on in my career. I think the Director General sort of selected 15, 20 people that he thought might be significant in comedy and invited us for a really awkward meal in a restaurant. And I was very aware that the actor who plays Del Boy, David Jason, was there. And I was very excited to say hello to David Jason. Unbeknownst to me, David had been drinking an awful lot of wine during that meal. I was chatting to Hugh Dennis and David Jason came over and I was like, oh my God, I will get to shake the hand of Del Boy. And he came up very close to me and looked up, because he's quite a short man, looked up at my height. And I went, David, I'm so thrilled to meet you. And he looked me in the eye and went, you're not funny. Now, with the wisdom of hindsight, what he was actually trying to say was, because he didn't know who I was.
Yeah.
He was trying to say, you're too tall to be funny, or you can't be a comedian because of the height differential between us. I mean, that's what I hope. That's what Hugh and I decided. But what he said, undeniably, was, you're not funny. And then, and you'll think I'm making this up, he fell down the stairs. In a very similar way to the way he fell through the bar.
Yeah.
Sorry, that was very long.
No, it's perfect.
But I felt I had to give you the background.
I appreciate it.
So by arguably the most iconic British sitcom actor, I have been told that I'm not funny.
And then he did a funny thing.
And then it's a funny thing.
Well, then he did
The
an
funny
accidental
thing.
funny thing.
As if we go, this is
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Fall down these stairs.
yeah. When the whole group went, "Oh, David!"
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had time to think of my one during that. Ken Dodd was my one, not my hero growing up, but I liked Ken Dodd a lot because he does a lot of variety, tells a lot of jokes, and I went to see him a
Do
few
you know
times.
Ken Dodd?
Oh,
But I'll
He's
Google it afterwards.
Liverpool comedian, barely left the country. He was actually my specialist subject on a quiz show called Mastermind. Anyway, I met him a few times when I was trying to become a comedian, and he was very nice. He also, in his 70s, still had current jokes written on his hand for that night, and that was quite inspiring that you should keep coming up with new material all the time. That's my Ken. It's not anything like that.
That's a nice story.
But he was,
But Ken Dodd's shows, even when he was in his 70s, I think even 80s,
4
were
hours long.
infamously 4 or 5 hours long.
so I did go and see a show with Tim Key. We watched an hour, then went to a pub to watch a football match, and went back and watched another hour of Ken Dodd. That's how long.
And like, was he doing like short set of punchline jokes or
some, and then he would have a ventriloquist, and then be a
like
ventriloquist.
variety things?
But he would be all the variety. He would do the ventriloquist, and then he'd
Oh,
sing
wow,
with
wow,
his
wow.
band. And
It's kind of like Don Rickles later in
get-
life would do similar things.
Yeah.
He would sing songs and do the things.
Yeah, they'd served coffee in the corridors, not during the just people go out and get a coffee, come back in. Many people have died during Ken Dodd's show because his audience was quite elderly.
Yeah.
I mean, I
So
think
overlap.
it might be double figures of death.
I think Ken's one of was one of that generation of comedians who just had to be on stage, that it was so intrinsically linked to who they were that he, even as an old man, just had no choice but
Yeah.
to be on stage.
Yeah.
Do either of you have something that people think is comedy that you think isn't comedy?
Would you mind asking?
Something that people think is comedy or would call comedy that you think isn't comedy?
I struggle slightly with sitcoms now. I like sitcoms that make you laugh and have jokes in, and there's quite a few sitcoms that are quite serious. And I just think there should be another term. So I did a sitcom, and it's very silly, but it feels like that's the least trendy thing to do now. The sitcoms they have to have a message, and they have to have some darkness. And they're great, but I think they're not. Some of them are not comedy.
Yeah.
They're really good drama.
I think it's okay for the end goal to purely be to try and make people laugh. And I think we've sort of been through sort of 25 years or so where that was perhaps looked down upon a little. For the goal of a comedian to make someone laugh is sort of... not by anyone in particular, but I think it's been sneered at a little bit. And for me, someone who came into comedy quite late, my only agenda was to try and make people laugh. Yeah.
Last one for either of you.
And I think that's all right. I think it is all right.
I think it's okay. Do either of you have the example of the best time you ever bombed?
I've got mine, which I have told before. But so I was doing my first Edinburgh show with Tim Key, and we got offered to do it in Northern Ireland in a town called Bangor. There's a Bangor in Wales, but there's a Bangor in Northern Ireland. And we arrived, and there's a big sign outside. It was in a church. There's a big sign outside which said adults only comedy night. And it was only me and Tim, and we're not very adult. And the evening had started. They'd put on a Billy Connolly DVD, and they were loving it. They were absolutely loving it. And then we arrived. They said, "Are you ready to go on?" So we said, "Yeah, we're ready." So they pressed pause on Billy, and we started doing our scientific dissection on what makes people laugh. And it wasn't us. So we did 10 minutes, and they were very polite. They hadn't reacted in any way. And we said, how's this going with you? And they all said, "No, I think you should stop." So we stopped, and they pressed play on Billy, and we went back to our little B&B and got a Chinese takeaway and talked about it. And it was so funny because no one was angry.
No.
We was all wrong.
Mine's not as well. Mine's just strange. I did I've stopped doing corporate shows some years ago, but it was always in the mid stages of your career. It's a good way of paying your mortgage to do an awful corporate thing, and they're generally fairly harmless, and you just hand out awards to some people from marketing or whatever. But I got asked to do one in the Natural History Museum, which is one of the most beautiful. Have you been there?
No.
Well, the
but
opening-
I'm imagining our Natural History Museum, and it works same way.
Night at the museum. That's what you.
Yeah, good.
The hallway is quite grand
Yeah.
and has either a blue whale or a Tyrannosaurus Rex suspended from the ceiling. On the night I did a corporate there, it was a blue whale, and I, in front of some pretty overweight businessmen, I did my act of virtual silence, and then one of our big news anchors sort of rolled her eyes at me as I left.
It's an echoey room, that room as well,
was
isn't
a
it?
real low.
Yeah.
I'd like to tell you about a comedian I witnessed bombing, who I really admired the way this comedian, who I won't name obviously, it was years and years ago, I really admired the way they dealt with their bombing because they'd worked out the rhythms of their routine, which is perfectly good. It was just an awful room. They'd worked out the rhythms of their routine so well that when they delivered a punchline that they thought was controversial, or that was supposed to be controversial, and on this particular gig it was met with pin drop silence. So they delivered the punchline, the controversial punchline. There was no response from the room whatsoever. You couldn't even hear breath in the room. It was a heavy silence, and the comedian went, "Oh, that's put the cat amongst the pigeons." And I really admire that spirit. I thought they just went, "Fuck you."
It can be the most fun thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure. Thank you, Jesse.
Thanks, Jesse.